More earthquakes strike eastern Taiwan. Malaysian Navy helicopters collide mid-air. Israeli military intelligence chief quits. Trump trial. Prosecution say hush money was pure election fraud. TikTok is in the hot seat once again in Washington. Scientists develop world's first 3D printed brain.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Wednesday, April 24th, and here are your top stories. According to the Central Weather Administration, two earthquakes of magnitude 6.0 and 6.3 struck central Hualien County in eastern Taiwan at 2:26 a.m. and 2:32 a.m. Tuesday, respectively. CAA data show that the epicenter of the magnitude 6.0 temblor was located off the Hualien coast in the Pacific Ocean, 29.9 kilometers south of Hualien County Hall at a depth of 10 kilometers. The earthquake's intensity, which gauges the actual effect of a seismic event, was highest in Hualien County. The temblor's intensity measure of 5 minors on Taiwan's 7-tier intensity scale. An intensity of 4 was recorded in Nantou and Yilan counties.
More than 80 earthquakes, the strongest of 6.3 magnitude, struck Taiwan's east coast starting Monday night and into the early hours of Tuesday.
Taiwan lies near the junction of two tectonic plates and is prone to earthquakes. The island's weather administration said more than 80 earthquakes, the strongest of 6.3 magnitude, struck Taiwan's east coast starting Monday night and into the early hours of Tuesday, and some caused shaking of buildings in the capital Taipei. The quakes were centered on the largely rural eastern county of Hualien, where on April 3 at least 14 people died after a 7.2 magnitude temblor. Taiwan has been jolted by hundreds of aftershocks since then. The fire department in Hualien said early on Tuesday that a hotel that had already been damaged on April 3 and was no longer in operation was now slightly leaning on its side. However, there were no reports of any casualties.
The Royal Malaysian Navy said in a statement that two Malaysian Navy helicopters collided in mid-air during a rehearsal for a naval parade on Tuesday, killing all 10 crew members aboard. The incident occurred at the Lumut Naval Base in the western state of Perak at 9:32 a.m. local time. The Navy said all victims were confirmed dead at the scene and the remains were sent to the Lumut Naval Base Military Hospital for identification. The Navy said it would investigate the cause of the collision.
A video circulating on local media showed several helicopters flying in formation when one of the chopper's rotors clipped another before both aircraft crashed into the ground. Local police confirmed the footage was genuine. Defense Minister Muhammad Khalid Nordin said the aircraft, a maritime operations helicopter and a Fennec military chopper, were rehearsing for a parade celebrating the 90th anniversary of the Royal Malaysian Navy, due to be held on Saturday. He told reporters that efforts were underway to verify the identities of the crew members killed, all of whom were below the age of 40.
The Israeli military intelligence chief has resigned over his leadership responsibility for the Hamas-led October 7th attacks into southern Israel, which led to the killing of 1,200 people and another 250 kidnapped. Mass General Haran Khalifa is the first senior military figure to step down over the Hamas attacks on October 7th, which was the deadliest day for Israel since its founding. The Israel Defense Forces said on Monday, in thanking him for his 38 years of service, it was decided that MG Haran Khalifa will end his position and retire from the IDF once his successor is appointed in an orderly and professional process.
In October, Khalifa admitted to an intelligence failure by his unit in not alerting the Hamas-led attacks on Israel. "We didn't fulfill our most important task, and as the head of the intelligence directorate, I take full responsibility for this failure." These were Khalifa's first comments since the attack. The attack was widely seen as a major Israeli intelligence failure, with several top defense and security officials coming forward in October to take responsibility to some extent for missteps that led to the attacks. Soon after the attacks, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu received sharp public criticism after he accused security chiefs in a later deleted social media post of failing to warn him about the impending attack.
The prosecution in Donald Trump's hush money trial accused the former president of a criminal conspiracy and cover-up to hide a sex scandal ahead of the 2016 presidential election. A lawyer told the jury during opening statements on Monday at the historic trial in New York it was election fraud, pure and simple. Setting out the case for the defense, Mr. Trump's lawyer said his client had committed no crimes and that it was not illegal to try to influence an election, and said that he is cloaked in innocence.
Mr. Trump is accused of trying to cover up a $130,000 payment to porn star Stormy Daniels before he won the race for the White House back in 2016. He has pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records and also denies having an alleged sexual encounter with Ms. Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford. At the start of the second week of the criminal trial in Manhattan, the first ever of a former U.S. president, each side set out the case they would present to the jury. Prosecutors said that this cover-up should be considered election interference, which constituted a second crime. The trial is expected to last about another 6 weeks, but legal experts say opening statements are particularly important as an opportunity to shape jurors' views on the case.
TikTok is again facing an imminent threat from Congress. House Republicans added a hot-button bill that could lead to a nationwide TikTok ban to a wide-ranging foreign aid package intended to help Israel and Ukraine. House Speaker Mike Johnson aims to hold a vote on the aid package as early as Saturday. If approved, it could fast-track what has become the most serious risk to TikTok's U.S. business since former President Donald Trump first proposed a ban on the popular app in 2020. An earlier version of the TikTok bill sailed through the House in March, but it has become bogged down in the Senate.
By including it in the aid package, House Republicans hope to force the Senate to a quick vote on a measure supporters say is necessary to protect Americans' personal data from the Chinese government. Opponents, including TikTok and a range of civil society groups, have argued the bill risks violating TikTok users' First Amendment rights. In pressuring Senate colleagues to approve the TikTok bill alongside military equipment for Ukraine, House Republicans are angling to avoid the lengthy regular process that could delay a Senate vote on the app, which has 170 million U.S. users. President Joe Biden has said he would sign the House TikTok bill if it reaches his desk. The latest version of the TikTok bill contains some updates. For example, it sets out a 9-month timeframe for the app's Chinese parent, ByteDance, to sell the social media company. If it misses the deadline, TikTok would be banned from U.S. app stores.
In a path-breaking scientific endeavor, researchers have created the world's first 3D printed brain tissue that behaves like a natural brain tissue. This is being considered a major leap towards the development of advanced solutions to neurological and neurodevelopmental disorders. This will greatly aid research programs for scientists specially focused on treatments for a broad range of neurological and neurodevelopmental disorders, such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease.
The 3D printer employed by scientists here ditched the traditional approach in favor of stacking layers horizontally. They situated brain cells, neurons grown from induced pluripotent stem cells, in a softer bio-ink gel than previous attempts had employed. Yuanwei Yan, a scientist in Zhang's lab, said the tissues stayed relatively thin, which allowed the neurons to easily access oxygen and enough nutrients from the growth media. The neurons communicate with each other, send signals and interact through neurotransmitters, and even form proper networks with support cells that were added to the printed tissue. Zhang said, "We printed the cerebral cortex and the striatum, and what we found was quite striking. Even when we printed different cells belonging to different parts of the brain, they were still able to talk to each other in a very special and specific way."
The answer for yesterday is B, grim. Things are looking grim for workers in the building industry. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Malaysian Navy helicopters collide mid-air. Number 1. Collide, 碰撞, 相撞. The car collided head-on with the van. Number 2. Circulate, 传播, 流传, 散布. Rumors began to circulate about his financial problems. Number 3. Remains, 遗体, 遗骸, 横用复数. They had discovered human remains. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday news. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.